I'll take a step back. If you look at the world today, there are key trends which are defining and governments are really working on. And UAE kind of leading in that as well, and they have defined it as early on. One of the important trends is your digitizing your economy. So we call it digital twin, and coming up with digital economies. How do we make sure everything will become transparent by using technology? When we say digital economies, you're talking about AI, you're talking about quantum computing, you're talking about machine learning, starting with data, digital twins as well, IoTs and so forth. The other key trends, which is also kind of becoming very, very important, and that's from the Paris Accord in 2005, how do we move our economies from linear economy to a circular economy? What do we mean by that? How do we transition from a fossil fuel to come up with renewable energy? Renewable energy could be anything from solar panels, wind surfacing, or even nuclear fusion and so forth, and biodiversity. Now, technology per se will actually fuel and push the development of your circular economy. Now, there might be other trends, but they can still put them onto these two blocks, biotech, for example, or health tech for perspective. So you require technology from that perspective. Now, if you look at UAE, people believe whatever we have today, what we've achieved in technology arena, it started probably 5 years ago. Actually, the seed of that happened back in 1995. I still vividly remember when the ruler of Dubai, current ruler of Dubai, Mohammed bin Rashid, he went back to his governments and he brought all the N-1, N-2, N-3 and took them to a hotel and said, look, we will be having e-government in the coming 5 years. All of us who are with us, please join the journey. The boat's going to be a bit rough, but we need to make sure we transition. And this is where the journey of the first seed of digital economy started. So by actually making sure the government is in e-government. And then fast forward, we're talking about smart government. Fast forward further, we want to accelerate and lead it. That's why if you look at it, AI per se, which is the prevalent or technology now, UAE considered to be the third larger investor into the AI technology after US and China. And not only that, a while ago we came up with our own model called Y2Think from the first AI university, which offers a postgraduate degree and doctorate degree in Abu Dhabi, which is named after the president of the country, Mohammed bin Zayed AI University. So this is how you could see the shaping of UAE is happening in the landscape when it comes to digital and circular economy. Let's take what are the building blocks of things to happen like that. It's human, the mindset. You'll always have to work with the mindset to build that cultural awareness. What are we trying to do and why we're trying to do? That's why we've appointed an AI minister, the first in the world, back in 2017, when people didn't even know about AI or did not hear about AI, although AI has been there for a very long time. But then building that cultural awareness makes us understand that what is it we want to do. So we had clarity on what we wanted to do. The very first thing we did, okay, then how do we make sure that everybody's culturally aware within the government itself? So we started training the government officials. So we've trained more than 500 government senior officials on understanding what technology we're going to talk about, why the government is going to be doing that, and what is going to be the end result of that thing. So you addressed it with cultural awareness. What are the other things that worrying people about? Probably the most talked about, do we have the right guardrails? Do I protect your data? How do I make sure that your data doesn't become in a space? These are all work in progress. UAE is taking, I would say, a balanced approach, whereby we're looking at what Europe has done in terms of their AI, I would say, guardrails. Asia has been doing. We said we'll do it more in a manner which is conducive to us to do business. So whenever we come up with a circular or a guardrails, we don't do it ourselves. We bring the subject matter expert from private companies and we work with them, whether it was on blockchain, whether it was on metaverse, whether it's on AI. So we brought with these prominent companies and he says, okay, and academia, and he said, okay, what is it should be the shape like of the circle and the guardrails are. And once we agree 85%, then we say, okay, this is how we want it to be today. The other important things, apart from having our own testing bed that we want to do for every single thing, whatever rules we have or guardrails we have, they don't become in stone, i.e., there will be iterative as the dynamics of the market changes. So we play the iterative work as well. Because most of the governments, what they do, they come up with a rule and they stay there for 20, 15 years. And then you don't become relevant to the market. And with technology changing so fast and rapidly, you have to have that agility to change along with the rules. A step back. This is not something new for us. when the founder of the country, when he founded this country, his whole development and focus was, how do we develop human capital? He said we could build the largest, the tallest of anything we want, but how do we develop the human capital? So the human capital development has been there since the 1960s and 70s. And it continued. We knew that if we're not having the youth with us, we will not be able to develop properly. That's why you'll see ecosystems, the whole entrepreneurship mindset has been developing again and again from long ago. That's why in governments, you'll always have on board of these governments, the youngster, the youth are there. So whatever we come up with policies, they're also consulted. Does this make sense to you or not? That's why we had the youngest minister who was 20 years old, 2 years old, the youth minister. And she was the youngest then globally who led that move. Why? Because we wanted to hear from her. So we wanted someone who was young, speak to the youngsters, how do we drive our policy, which will be relevant to them. So that ecosystem only continues and only accelerates. And with that, you'll see in the last about 5 years, the report recently came out from Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce, the number of startup companies who came up from the youth in the past couple of years actually have risen by 97%. And the AUMs of those companies in the private market, between the age of 18 to 35, I think it's not short of $8 billion. It's relevantly very high given the country's context that we have today. So meaning that we know where to push what right buttons so we can progress progressively over the coming years. Something we've worked on. One of the mandates we have from the Ministry of Economy is how do we double our economy into the digital space. We've built our GDP in the brick and mortar things, which was fantastic, and it will continue to be there. But how do we become relevant to the digital space? So that's why there's a mandate, and they launched the digital roadmap back in 2022, April, by the Minister of Economy, Abdullah Bantog, saying that, okay, we would like to double our GDP into the thing, but knowing that family businesses and SME constitute about 60% of GDP. So that's mean there's a lot of help required for us to push them to do that thing. But then that's mean we need to launch a program. So we launched the first cohort program in teaching the family businesses, the newer generation, on Venture Studios model, where they can build their businesses in digital. Now, I think digital has a plethora of arena of investment to do. So anything to do with AI will be still exciting. And I think it's a long way to go for to be there. Quantum computing, in my humble opinion, was probably another 20, 30 years. But if you look at some of the research which came out roughly a week ago by one of the universities in Australia, they're able to test the quantum computing using only one atom. Meaning that if this prevails, you'll probably have quantum computing on your phone in another 10 years' time. And if that happens, that means you accelerate the development of any technology you want to do, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's renewable energy, you'll be accelerating it. So I think those technologies are very important. One of the other things which is exciting is the transition to the safer renewable energy. Now, if you talked about nuclear fusion, probably 2-3 years ago, people will tell you, not a chance. But with AI being there and you're able to test the scenarios very, very fast, you already have a company called Helium in the US as a startup company where they will be developing the first nuclear fusion plant for Microsoft by 2027 or by early 2028, which will power up their data center of about 500 megawatts. So these are very interesting technology to watch. There are many others, but these are something I would say breakthrough would be there.